So, where were we? We're recording, but we can edit this. So we were at the
I'm
point
trying to think. What were we saying?
I was saying about,
Oh, we were saying about choosing well-being over ambition, weren't
yes,
we?
exactly, and
Yeah,
how
yeah,
that's been a big thing for you, reflecting on last year and going into this year. And
yeah.
I'd love to hear a bit more about that.
And of kind of choosing. I think that I kind of I didn't choose myself in so many situations. I look back in sort of 2019, and I think, when you put other things ahead of your own happiness, or
Mhm.
I should do that, or I should do that, and like there were a few quite big occasions during 2019, 2018, 2019, where I did not choose myself. And obviously, if you're not choosing yourself, you're not the best version of yourself, and eventually that does deplete, doesn't it? I remember, I think it was 2017, where I think I took 4 days annual leave in the
Wow.
whole of 20. Yeah, I got burnt out pretty
Yeah,
bad
you
after
will.
that. Yeah, yeah. And I think I might have mentioned to you that I postponed my honeymoon
Yes.
to, to close an investment round,
The only
for
one I know would
for
do
my
that.
company. Yeah, who does that? But that was normal. I remember saying to James when we got married, and when we had that conversation about the honeymoon, just give me 2 more years. I'd started my company a few years previously. I was like, I'm going to be the best wife ever, but I just need another 2 years. Um, Stick with me. You won't see me much over the next 2 years, but I promise you it'll all be worth it. And then 2019 happened, and I had 2 miscarriages in 2019, and I just kind of didn't even. I was so focused on
Mm.
work and my ambition. I mean, I had one of them during a board meeting,
Oh, wow.
and I didn't tell anyone. So I went to the toilet, came back, and carried on a 2-hour board meeting. And then and made an excuse that I'd drank too much. I'd had a lot of coffee this morning, so excuse me, I'm going to have to go back and forth to the toilet. And I did that for 2 hours, and I carried on talking about, well, what you talk
Wow.
about in a board. Yeah. And then I drove myself, and then I just mentioned it to my colleague who was with me, and I went to A&E. Like, who does that?
No, well,
And everybody on my board, they're all men, but they're all beautiful men. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could have walked in that room and told them what happened, and they would have
yeah.
gone, I'll
Oh,
drive you, what do you need?
yeah.
But I didn't in that moment, and then I had to really ask myself why I didn't. So I was already kind of on that journey prior to 2020 happening,
Mhm.
and then 2020 happened. And professionally, we're an online learning company, so we run online development stuff. So we got busy, like, really
Yes,
quickly.
of course.
And my team, I had to make sure that we managed that. There was certainly an element of guilt initially, that we were doing really well. A lot of our friends weren't, and we were doing well because of this horrific thing that was happening in the world. And then we kind of had to flip that, as
Yes,
if
of
to
course.
say, we're
Yeah.
helping more people.
Yeah.
And a huge catalogue of our content is job hunting and dealing with redundancies, and helping your well-being and staying motivated and knowing your value. So we were really focused on that, but it meant that as a small team, that we were all working from home anyway. How do we get that balance? We operate in 42 countries, so when you've got somebody emailing at 11 o'clock at night, I don't want my team having to reply to that, because
No.
we've got our own stuff to do. So we had to kind of get a handle on that really, really quickly, because I think a lot of people working from home don't have that cut-off point now. It's just all merging into one, isn't it? And I suppose it
Exactly.
needs to be in that sense, that you need to have that flexibility, because in the middle of the afternoon you might need to go and get some shopping for your mum, or
But you need boundaries as well.
but you need boundaries. Yeah. So
Cool.
we and everybody that works for me is, they're all smarter than me. They were all able to, tell me what we should do. So we just huddled together, and we got closer actually as a team, which I thought was
Brilliant.
really lovely. And
Yeah.
then personally, I had another 3 losses this year. Well, say this year, 2020.
That's a lot to deal with.
It's a lot to deal with, yeah. And I think that because I was already mentally on that journey because of what happened in 2019, I was able to go, right now, this time,
Yes.
I am choosing myself. So
Yes.
it's able to say, I'm taking a couple of weeks off, and everybody was able to handle it. But
And with the risk of not sounding trite, you weren't listening maybe, and then you started to listen and say, my body comes first.
yeah,
My body needs not,
Yeah.
would ever willingly wish that path, but the body has an innate and brilliant way of healing itself, but also really whispering as poignantly as it can until it has to shout, and then it shouts. I had my own journey with exactly that in 2019, and then I went, okay, I'm listening, you've got me, you've got my full attention.
Yeah, you're right. I wasn't listening, was I?
And when you do stop and you do recalibrate and
Mm,
you do actually go from the neck down and you
mm,
listen to that deeper wisdom of the body, because we're working this computer to that computer ever more so, aren't we? And we're just ignoring what's going from the neck
mm,
down. So when you sort of tune into that, it's a time to say, okay, what do I need to strip back? What do I need to let go of? And then suddenly things kind
absolutely.
of, I mean, didn't it happen on a universal scale? The
Yeah,
planet was being culled last year.
yeah,
The
yeah,
cruel act of nature, but we've all had this sort of personal and collective culling,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
and it's coming back to that real sort of sense of getting quiet and listening inwards, and then you're realizing, okay, my well-being is more important than my.
yeah, yeah.
But
And letting go of stuff.
yeah,
Like, because I'd always believed that, if you want something, you work for it. There's
yeah,
absolutely nothing in this world that we can't have if we work hard enough and put your mind to, or make sacrifices, blah 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 blah. And that served me very well over
mm,
15 years. And then you get to a point where it's like, actually, when you're watching people lose their loved ones,
yeah,
um, lose their lives, lose, through no fault of their own, lose their businesses, not because they didn't work hard. There was just so much going on, so much loss going on through no fault of anyone's, that you just realize, actually, there are some things you just can't control.
of course,
And to just, in that moment, you just have to think, well, let's not keep thinking about, because I was always thinking about tomorrow, like I'm on right move all the time. What's my next house going to look like? What's the future going to look like? And I'm squirreling away and working towards it. And then you just think, actually, no, let's just, for the first time ever, I think you hinted to the same, where you just stop and think, what do I have?
yeah,
Let's just look at what I have, and let's be super
exactly,
grateful for this, and
yeah,
let's delete the right move app, and let's
yeah.
focus on the here and the now, and just being really present and really, really, really grateful.
So what was your mantra then for last year? If
So
you had
my
one, something in a mantra that you kind of kept coming back to get you through.
Yeah, I think there were a number of them, because I have to say, over that 12 months, you could have asked me on any different week of those 12 months, and I would have given you a completely different mantra, because
Yeah, sure.
I was constantly in a different headspace. But one of the things that I ended on, very much so, when I look back on it, was, there's a quote that I love, which is, you don't have the right to the cards you believe you should have been dealt. You have an obligation to play the hell out of the ones that you're holding.
That's brilliant.
And what that said to me was, there's no level playing field in this world.
No,
Everybody's got something going on. Everybody has got their story. All we can do is make the most out of what we've got and show gratitude for what we have.
yeah, that's
And that was something that, and for my husband, because it was a year that that affected both of us,
mm,
personally and professionally. And then doing that attitudes of gratitude thing, that he always laughs when I say that. He's like, keep your business, speak to yourself. But but it's true, we used to do it at the end of every day, what we're grateful for.
yeah.
And we used to do it so much that we were, in the end, we were just like,
But there's an instant
amazing.
shift.
Yeah,
If there's
yeah,
the minute I couldn't agree with you more, and I've been really slack at doing it, but the minute I go to bed and say, right, 5 things before you close your eyes that have made you smile and you've said thanks for today. And I do that quick checklist, and I am instantly put in a
yeah,
better mood.
yeah,
And I'm instantly reminded that again, the body hears that it's all okay.
mm,
So whatever I'm cogitating on, which is a real sort of drain or just like minefield of stuff, it's like,
mm,
okay, easiest way to shift it, start getting grateful,
mm,
sit in your gratitude pit, because then
mm.
it's going to change. So
And almost sort of like diarising it, because it's easy to forget,
yeah,
like you just said, it's
that's
easy to
nice.
forget.
Do you have a journal or a little just simple gratitude?
I've gone through about 6 journals last year. I
Really?
went through,
Oh, you are
yeah,
brave.
and it wasn't something that was my idea. I can't take credit for that. It was, I had a coach that was helping me last year, and she got me doing it. But
Brilliant.
there was so little things like every time I went to the hospital, and obviously what was happening, and during COVID I had to go on my own because your husband can't go with you and stuff.
Yeah,
And
sure.
we always had this thing when I walked out, was that I would say to him, I got to walk out. Lots of people go to hospital and didn't walk out, did they? So we've got to walk
Yeah.
out. And we had these little habits that we would say to each other at certain things. I said it to him the other night because I was talking about you, and what are we grateful for? And he was like, oh, shut up, go to sleep. I'm trying to read, and I'm like, come on, do it, what are we grateful for?
Oh,
But no, but then you're having a giggle, and it's I think
it's
it's
important.
helped me anyway.
It's the
definitely helped
grounding.
me.
No, I love that. So tell me then, so that's your mantra. Tell me the one thing that you're looking forward to doing when lockdown is finally finished.
So when lockdown finishes, I'm kind of going to go to everything. So I've become quite a bit of an introvert over the last couple of years. I tend to not go to things. I'm happy. I think that's what it is. I'm very happy with my 2 dogs and my home and my guy. And it takes a lot for me to go out and attend things now when I get invited. But I'm totally going to everything I get invited to.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Sure.
if any of my friends get like a new washing machine, I'm coming over with a bottle of bubbly. We're going to celebrate. I'm going to introduce myself to that washing machine, and we're going to have a party. I'm going to go to everything. But the thing that I think I've missed the most is, it's going to sound really random, but dogs are my world. Like they are the reason, if I ever sell my company and make any money, it's all going to the dog's home. 100% the reason, my biggest motivation, my purpose. And I was really lucky to come across a charity based in Llanelli called Many Tears Rescue, who specialise in ex-breeding, rescuing ex-breeding dogs. And we rescued one of our dogs, Sophie, from there. And I miss being down there. I miss that, I can't go down there and walk the dogs or, help out and just be around that. I think especially over a year where my confidence has taken a knock, like a lot of people, I'm sure, and the best way for us to feel valued is to give value.
Yeah.
And that was my way of giving value and feeling good about myself, and and just being around other people that are doing amazing work. But I couldn't go, and I missed that. But I can't wait to get my wellies on and just get back down there.
So get back to the rescue. And I have seen on Instagram that you've set up in a beautiful company called Sophie Smells.
Yeah.
Is it candles? Is it specifically candles?
Yeah. So
and I know your dog is Sophie, even though I haven't met her. So tell me a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yes. Well, so I mean, I donate money every month, and and that's fine. But I suppose it's the entrepreneur in me. How can I turn £300 into £600? That kind of stuff. And we're at home. I wasn't doing much apart from getting into Game of Thrones, and yeah. I said I wouldn't watch that, and now I'm like, I want to dye my hair white and I want a dragon. Yeah, I'm obsessed. But I was just like, what am I going to do? So I just bought some wax, some soy wax, some toxin-free soy wax, and I spent a couple of weeks making candles. Made some dodgy ones, but that's fine because I'll keep those. And I was like, these are really good. And then I just quickly designed a logo, and I just went on Instagram and I said, look, guys, we're raising money. 100% of the profit. I mean, I'll volunteer my time. I'm at home anyway. And we're going to sell them. And yeah, we raised quite a bit of money. And now I love doing it so much that I've decided that I'm going to actually do an Etsy store. And I'm actually going to have a team of volunteers across the UK, not just me, because it takes a long time to make candles.
Wow.
Who are going to make them. And
are they scented?
Yeah, so yeah, they're beautifully scented, I have to say. Beautifully scented. Yeah, the lemongrass one is amazing. It smells like a spa. But now I've got a team of volunteers that are going to this year make them, and we're going to continue 100% of profits to go to dog welfare charities. Whether that continues to be just Many Tears, I don't know. It might be that we end up, sharing the love. But it's something that we can do.
I think it's wonderful, and I
Yeah, it's
support
fun.
you 100%. I think it is absolutely, being a dog owner and a dog lover. I know you know and love my pooch.
Well, your dog, Moses, was what introduced me to dogs. So I have to thank you for that, because it was looking after Moses that ignited that for me. So I will always be
Oh,
grateful.
I'll let the little furry prince know.
Yeah.
He'll like that. I will 100% going to support you in that ambition, because it's wonderful and I need some candles. So
Yay.
consider us on board. So
Yay.
can I ask another question of you before we wrap things up? Just, it's been such a massive turning point for individuals, for families, and the world collectively these last 15 months, and how do you personally, professionally, it's the same hat, if you ask me, face and embrace change? How do you feel with it, sit with it, look towards it?
Such a good question. I'm really good with it.
Are
It's
you?
Yeah, I always have been. Change has been. I mean, a bit about my back. I lived in quite a lot of foster homes growing up. Like, I've just change is just, yeah, I'm cool with it. Like, it's never been an issue with me. Um, I actually get off on it.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. I do.
So,
And I probably change things quite often. And certainly, if you ask any people I work with, if you ask James, I'm often making changes, and sometimes I think I need to sit with what I've got more than the other way around. So I
okay,
actually probably have to embrace just sitting
okay,
with stuff, because I'm always looking, what can I change? What can I do?
yeah.
Yeah. So no,
So,
I'm cool with it. I'm cool with it. And I think as well, one of the things that I like to do is I'm always playing things out in my mind. Um, so regardless of what could be happening, what the change might be, I'm always thinking about every possible scenario, so that I'm never surprised. And we're going through potential acquisition at the moment with work and with lots of other things, and I've worked out so much so that I keep talking to people about what happens if this happens, and my board and my colleagues are going, but we don't know if that's going to happen yet. And I'm like, no, I know, but we need to think about, because what I don't like, what I'm not okay with, is surprises. So I like to play things out in my mind, and I would advise lots of people to do this if they're not okay with
that's
change,
what I was going to ask you
is
next.
to,
What
to
is
just sit and think about all of the things that could possibly happen, all of the possible scenarios, so that whatever you see, whatever happens, I suppose you've seen it before. That's what I tend to like to do, probably more so than, there's probably a lot of energy on that I don't need to spend because it hasn't happened yet, but that's how I'm okay with change, I suppose, and that's why I'm comfortable with it, because very rarely I'm surprised by anything.
because you've played it out in your mind's eye,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you've given yourself a moment to sort of role play every
yeah,
eventuality.
yeah.
So a little tip then to those who are feeling maybe a sense of intrepidation towards the year ahead. Again, we're in another lockdown. There's a lot on people's shoulders, a lot of pressure, and we're at the morning and the dawning of the year. So when you look towards the 12 months that stretched out ahead of you, what one tip could you give to listeners about looking into that future and looking at the possibility of big changes coming for people?
Mm. Well, one, choose your well-being over your ambition. I think
Love it.
that's something that I'm doing this year with,
Love that.
and also don't forget your value. So there's a lot of changes at the moment, people losing jobs, but you are not your job. People losing lots of things, but you're still you. And I think not to forget your value, because it's really, really easy to forget your value when there's so much change going on and uncertainty, and through any period of growth and change. But don't forget your value, and make sure that you're surrounding yourself with lighters, people that will remind you on those moments where you forget
Yeah.
how good you are
Yeah.
and what you bring to the world, I suppose.
Aimee, thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I've loved what you've brought to the table and said. And
Oh, yeah.
thank
Thank you for
you so
asking
much.
me.
Absolute pleasure. We'll see you again.
Okay, thanks, Deb.
Don't go.